Hello, hello, wherever you are in the world. My name is Agnes van Rhijn. I am a life and business reinvention mentor at Success on Your Own Terms, and I'm the founder of the Woman Who Makes Things Happen show. Today, it is my privilege to be interviewing, well, a queen of reinvention also. So Wendy Ward. Wendy Ward works globally with leaders, lawyers, entrepreneurs, and innovators, co-creating structures to raise resilience, ignite brilliance, and develop presence. Using the Presilience formula and framework, she offers resilient solutions to complex problems. What I love about that introduction, Wendy, is that it doesn't say us anything about the real you, and I love the real you behind it. So welcome to the Woman Who Makes Things Happen show, and tell us more about you.
Thank you, Agnes. It's wonderful to be here. Well, Agnes, the first thing that I want to say is that I'm sitting here in Johannesburg. So let's land with that I have embraced this city as my home. I arrived here in 2000 with two small boys, having left England courageously, although it probably, a touch of madness always helps when you are journeying this transformative journey of reinvention. And I had been to South Africa a number of times and loved it, a deep love for this country. As a youngster in my 20s, I left my career in law and decided to find my family roots. And I came here for a good 3 years and worked in television and media. And so I brought my children back here 20 years ago. And 9 months ago, probably a little bit less, 8 months ago, I moved from Cape Town, where I'd raised my children for 15 years, to Johannesburg. Mm-hmm. So I from the mother city, Cape Town's known as the mother city, to the city of gold. And so that's been my latest big step. I've stepped up 1,000 meters onto the plateau of Africa, and that's where I greet you from.
I love it. And I'm attracted by South Africa in general, because we were just very briefly talking about the fact that my father ended up discovering as a Dutch person that we have some roots over there as well. So let's come back to that moment where all of a sudden you decided to leave the UK with your two small kids and practically nothing else?
Well, that's a long while back. And I actually remember, I've kept diaries and journals all my life, quite prolifically. I know when I'm off track, when I don't. Mm-hmm. And it was fascinating to me because I, at one stage, remember going back to my journals, and a year later, I was writing about South Africa. And in fact, it had been a constant theme. So I now, 30 years later, have a technology that is grounded and practically using tools of intuition to create. I consider myself engaged in the art of high-level creative functioning. I knew nothing then. In fact, I would say that my journey around that element, those alchemical principles have been sort of in the last 2 years. And it's put my life onto another sort of set of steroids, if you like. We'll talk about that. But then I think I just always had the courage to follow my heart. And I was in touch with it. And I wasn't afraid to upset people, go against the grain. I think that I've always lived quite lightly and known what to take seriously, and just had, I think it's been a deep faith. Some people might have seen it as a naive faith, but that I would be all right.
Yeah.
That I would land, that I would find my way. And it's been like that. But I think that's what it was. I knew practically I was also moving away from a very difficult relationship. But I wanted to get away from my ancestry, from everything that I knew, everything that was keeping me. You know, the English culture, you live here, it's always been a bit like that. Here your schooling is, and here is what you do, and you're labeled. And I think my journey has always been a label to get rid of those definitions. So arriving in South Africa with nothing, in a town like Cape Town, I integrated through bringing my children into a Waldorf education. And in fact, I was studying Waldorf education at the time. But I remember making a conscious decision: if people don't like me because they come into my house and there isn't much, it doesn't look necessarily like an established home, and my bookshelves are bricks and planks for now, that's how it is. And I, in fact, of course, needless to say, ended up attracting the biggest community of Europeans and African ladies in my road, centered around meals and sharing meals, because we were single women with small children. And instantly there was a community, and people were saying to me, I've lived here and she lives here and we're both German and we've never met before, and it's you that's been, you're on super alert when you make those kind of moves. Everything becomes possible. It's almost like you've got another level of vision, and you do more and see more and go more, because you're
so true. I experience it every day as well. I think there is something also around, I'm diverting a little bit, but there's also something around international communities. When you're not, in fact, what you were saying about British people, being and the labels and boxed, etc. I personally think that it's not about British people. I think it's the same in every culture where people are what I would say monocultural. Well, where they know nothing else than their own culture, are not open to other cultures. Where when you move into a space where you're open to different cultures, I mean, it's amazing what you're attracting to you. And that's what you're, in fact, just describing as well. And that's what I'm experiencing since I've arrived in London as well. It's incredibly enriching. But that's another topic. So let's come back. Once you had left the UK, the show is The Woman Who Makes Things Happen. So how did you go in that process of going through or deciding what it is that you wanted to do for a living, etc.? Did you have any type of calling around what you wanted to do?
Well, I'm going to jump a number of years, but I started my life as a lawyer. I read law at university, and I was on my way to becoming a lawyer. And I failed an exam and didn't fancy doing my entire year again. But deep down, I knew that law was fantastic for me as an academic study, but that I wasn't going to do that kind of work. Thank God for the teaching, choosing to go into education. So I did a number of things, but anyway, choosing to go into education was pragmatic. It meant that it was something that I could do and raise my children. I was a single mother by that stage, and still am. Coming to South Africa was a big leap. I had discovered Rudolf Steiner, thought that this was a fantastic curriculum, and the transition, the only thing that I knew was that I had a place at the Center for Creative Education. Everything else fell into place. But I want to jump because I then left that curriculum and moved to the International Baccalaureate, a school, the International Baccalaureate School of Hout Bay. And I was introduced to yet another curriculum. I love cross-pollinating. So I wanted to take what I knew from the state education in England to the Cambridge system, to the Waldorf system, and I worked very happily for 5 years at the international school. And I grew up with my children. So I was teaching 10-year-olds when my children were about that age, and they were around. And it was wonderful, and it was incredibly fulfilling. And I didn't question it, but I knew that it wasn't me. People would often say, why aren't you applying for the principals or this or that? And I was just very comfortable. I used to joke. I said that the children keep me sane. And I knew it was for now. I had no idea what coaching was until I got to a point in my career where I knew intuitively it was time. My children would be leaving home. They would be going to university. I had 3 years still to put them through matric. And I had to start thinking, how am I going to engineer that next reinvention? I just knew intuitively that I had to keep growing. It's almost like it's a calling. It just comes out of me. And what was that? And I was teaching the theory of knowledge, which is a wonderful course that I started and introduced and taught for a number of years at the senior level of the International Baccalaureate School. It's all about how we know. And there I began to get something ignited. I found an intellectual stimulus that I hadn't missed, because I was the one on my knees doing children's stuff. I loved being a mother, but now I'm moving into this, and I'm finding that again. Perception, logic, how do we think, what do we know, how do we know what we know? And so that kept me. But I came to the end of a 2-year period, and I had a bit of a barney with the then principal. I was a little bit more free thinking than him, let's just say that. And I knew it was time for me to leave, and I resigned. And I had no idea what was going to happen in January, other than I'd read Eat, Pray, Love at the beginning of that year and had a dream about going to India. In fact, I wanted to take my whole children out, but they said I was mad, so I didn't. And I chose to be sensible. And I went to India for a 6-week period and knew that the next big leap was happening, and I resigned.
So you resigned without safety net?
Absolutely.
I love that.
Absolutely, because I knew that I had to. And I know that I now coach people in being sensible and creating transitional.
I was going to say, we don't recommend this to everyone.
Absolutely not. It is not to be recommended. I had a number of people who had come to me saying that they would like to work with me. There were a number of people who said that they would give me jobs. I thought that I would be able to set up my work as a corporate trainer with absolutely no problem, and that would be my income whilst I nursed my coaching baby. Because in the Christmas period, I discovered through reading Martha Beck, Nick Williams, Deepak Chopra, I discovered that these people who sit and ask questions of other people and have conversations with them and bring about extraordinary change in a relationship were calling themselves coaches. I thought that they were people who just knew how to, who told other people how to live their lives and how, who are you? And that was it. I'd found my dharma. I absolutely, in that period where I literally took myself house at a friend of mine's house while she was on holiday, grabbed intuitively a whole bunch of books. Some of them felt like they were self-help books. And I was sort of still in that stage where, self-help books, we read Herman Hesse.
Come on.
I'm now about to write one, of course.
Yeah, of course.
But it was like, this is my work. This is what I'm here to do. And that keeps happening to me. That was 5 years ago. And I called myself a coach. And how does one start a coaching business? I mean, that's a journey in itself. But that process of evolving and evolution in your own journey as you remain open to what is it that's wanting to emerge now? What is it that's calling you now? And what is your work now? How does it look here now in Johannesburg? Because it's entirely different to what it was in Cape Town. It's a different entity, it's a different.
So this is fascinating. I really love that. One thing that I heard you say is how does one start a coaching business? And obviously not everyone listening wants to start a coaching business, but how does one get started with a business anyway? So leads me to, what are the challenges that you've been facing in that process?
Well, for me, the first challenge was knowing very early on that the skills that I were lacking were skills in running a business. I mean, I was a teacher, and then there was this. Then the second level of that challenge was, as I began to sort of understand, the basics of how one attracts clients and what one needs to do, and I started looking at focus groups and, well, where are my clients? Who are my ideal clients? And it was again a mixture of using pragmatism and prototyping. So I looked at lawyers for a while and played with that for quite a long time and didn't make much traction. The lawyers who were open to that kind of work were in small practices and often felt that they couldn't afford coaching, etc. And the ones right at the top didn't have the language yet to really buy in.
They were not in that place yet.
I love millennials. So I looked for a while and modeled that. These things just take time. They evolve. I interview youngsters. And yes, I love them. But, then it was like, well, who's going to, again, support that? And who am I playing? And where am I playing? And it felt a bit like I was too fine. The line was with psychology and therapy and coaching. And I discovered resilience, and I have a gift for connecting the dots. I have a gift for kind of seeing what's out there and understanding things, even though I may not always be able to articulate it straight away. And I see trends emerging quite often. And there are very few people here who are experts in resilience, but I started playing with that concept. And again, the journey was a journey around research. So that's a love of mine. So there was I was very aware that there was a large focus in building up my research. By the way, also a focus in understanding that I didn't necessarily need to go to Pennsylvania to work with Dr. Martin Seligman, because that was not where I play. And it was very tempting. Oh, I'd love to do that and, get my master's.
That's a topic also, yeah.
Absolutely. But being true to myself, yes, I would love that, but I don't lead with that and I don't need it. But I do need some authentic body. So that was fascinating, and a massive collection of research. And then out of that came my own model. So I think that now you're really building something. I love language, and it came to me. Presilience came to me. And so I started working with this technology of Presilience. And then in terms of business, it just made sense to me to collaborate. And I started really gaining traction when I realized that knocking at the corporate doors was simply not working. And nothing I could do could change that. And so let's just use that as a feedback loop, not take it personally, and move on back into my community. I didn't want to go there because I didn't want to be seen as fluffy. And my community was quite like that. But from there, I started collaborating with, for example, a recovery center. And how can I contribute to your list? How can I make a difference? How can I work with you? So collaboration has been a huge theme and continues to work for me very, very much.
Interesting, because you use two terms that for me are key. It's funny because I always say to my clients that I help them connect the dots. So that's really, and collaboration for me. I couldn't live without collaboration. That's how I grow. That's how I bloom. That's really what I love. And oh, and by the way, yes, I'm just reading my notes while I'm talking to you. But the other thing that I find interesting in what you're saying also is that finding exactly your niche, or what it is exactly that you want to do, does take time. And that is something where people get stuck quite often. They think they need to find their niche immediately. I say, no, just get started somewhere where you think it feels comfortable, and adapt, be flexible, and play with it. I have really found my true community, I would say, people I want to work with, 8 years after I started.
Yes.
And so I've been playing with, various options. And it doesn't mean that what I was doing, I didn't like it. It's just that it wasn't completely that. Something was missing, and now I found it.
Well, it's so interesting, Agnes. Certain things also have a way of coming full circle. So I'm now working very closely in a beautiful relationship with a woman, Amanda Boardman, who has started the Center for Integrative Law.
Interesting.
Global movement. And I've supported her and she supported me. We've kind of intuitively known that we will work together. I've had my experience in being a little bit put off, but now we're arranging conferences, and I was on a panel discussion this year with 100 lawyers and lawmakers and policymakers who were given the stage to talk about what it was to be a woman and a lawyer, to be vulnerable. We've made a video of it. And isn't that fascinating? And so part of that evolution is now that we're growing a women's women in law and leadership circle. And then another interesting thing in terms of coming full circles and really deeply being honest about who you are and being open to that evolving. I'd love to share this story with you because it's so potent and it's just happened now. I looked back at one stage and said, well, what would really make me happy? What kind of work would make me happy?
That's a good question.
What would I love? It's a question that we kind of think is a bit naive and a bit too easy. Well, what would you love? What would you love? And I instantly came to the answer, because I've seen it in my visualizations often. I would love to be in the bush. I would love to work with horses. I love horses. I would just love to ride horses in the bush, that close to giraffe and rhino. And so I thought it was a dream. I used to ride as a kid. I love horses. And this weekend, I went up to the bush, to Limpopo, to the home of my mother, where there are 3 horse safari game lodges. And I did a recce to collaborate with the owners of these people, very different scenarios, very different sort of lodges. I rode in the bush with rhino. I saw baby giraffe, baby zebra, and I'm creating a program, bringing a piece of my Presilience work into the bush, my clients out of the city.
I love it.
And something magical happens when you do that. And connecting with horses, connecting with yourself, connecting with the land. And there's an element of it being, yes, a retreat, but it's more. It's all of those beautiful words. Reinvent, rejuvenate, renew, reinvigorate. You know, it's coming back to yourself. Now, that doesn't sound very corporate, and it's not. So who are my clients? Well, I'm going to find them because they'll find me. Yeah. Because the work is already magnetizing. It's because it's what I love. I'm going to create it.
It definitely, you will attract the people we're meant to attract by doing that. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
The corporate world may end up there one day.
Yes. Well, yes.
Yeah, they badly need it.
I have to say this because it sounds, I don't want to sound arrogant, but I'm using your words, on my terms. And I don't know whether that stands things on its head a little bit, because yes, there's an element of, you know, there's a trend at the moment, direct your niche, be absolutely clear about your niche. But there's something also about, well, how does it look on, what's my leadership? What's my inner leadership saying? What's my intuition saying? Where's my work forming on my terms?
Yeah, Well, I'm definitely all about that. Definitely all about that. Yes, just trying to copy, models and things that people in the world say you should do. I think it's more important to be in alignment and to be authentic. And I mean, the world needs our work so much. There are so many people out there who need us, and we're not enough. So if you are following your route, you will attract the right people to you, and so do I, and so do others. I think that is absolutely essential.
I think the combination of knowing what your end results are, and then creating a set of choices around those end results. So I choose the end result of initiating weekend, Presilience initiation, whatever that is. And then for me, the technology of creation, and part of what I'm teaching and coaching in my groups and my clients is what is this? What is the process? What is the creative functioning? How does one go about this? And the typical coaching models will say, what's your current reality? Where do you want to go? What are the obstacles in the way? How can you overcome them? And make a plan. Fantastic. And it's a model that works. Where I'm coming from is, where is your end result? And can you hold the tension of your end result in your current reality? And be deeply honest about where you are right now. So right now, I don't have a structure for this. I'm, whatever your internally, what your current reality is, and then feel the tension that's created from that discrepancy of what you don't have and what is present. Knowing that if you reduce this in some way or compromise it, you're going to lose that tension, which is the path of least resistance that if you can keep the tension, will follow in favor of your end results, as opposed to following in favor of your beliefs.
Love it. Love it. Wendy, unfortunately, it's coming to an end. So what I would like you to tell us is where people can find you.
And yes, www, I'm going to give you the name of my website, www.meta-morphic. Let's just quickly spell that, meta-morphic.co.za. And other than that, that would probably be the best place. Anybody who wants to connect with me on Facebook, on my personal page, I'm very open. Just drop me a note saying who you are, that you caught me on the show, and I would love to connect with you there as well. Just Wendy Ward.
Wendy, thank you so much. I absolutely have enjoyed this, and I can really see increasingly when we talk about attracting the right people to us, that these shows always bring people to me that are so much in alignment with who I am and what I do. I really, really loved this interview. Thank you so much.
And thank you. I hope your audience have just lots of blessings to everybody in your circle, in your field, and anybody who's listening.
Thank you. So for the listeners, if you too want to reinvent your life, whatever stage of your life you're at, and it is never too late, nor too early, by the way, to step into the driver's seat of your life and to make things happen in your life and or business, you can contact me at and book a reinvention consultation with me. My website is www.agnesvanrhijn.com, and that is ANYESVANRHIJN.com. I wish you all a fabulous time. Thank you. Bye.